Hey, what up, though? What up, though? That's that intro, though. Welcome to the Big House Breakdown. I'm your host, Vic. We are here today to talk about the World of College Football, CFB 2025, Week 10. And we're here to feature the feature game Michigan Wolverines versus your Purdue Boilermakers. That will happen Saturday, 7 p.m., a night game. I don't know why they decided to make the Purdue Boilermakers a night game, but that's what them folks like to do. I guess they trying to, you know, milk the cow, you know what I'm saying? But we had a report on it all, and going into it, there's some injuries, there is some recruiting information that you should know, there's some eye in the sky, don't lie, info to get through, and we'll get into the matchups. So, just like we always do, we're going to shine on you with the big house breakdown. A2 crew, stand up. Y'all get in here, make it fair. All college football fans alike, y'all get in here. Y'all talk to us. Either put it in the chat or jump in the backstage and I'll bring you up and we can rock out and talk some good old college football. But before we do, and as always, we got to go through the week that was. The week that was. So let's start it off by talking about the top 25. That's right. The AP poll put out a top 25, and this is how it reads. We got Ohio State at 1, Indiana at 2, A&M at 3, Bama at 4, Georgia at 5. Isn't that cute how those two always seem to wind up toward the end of the year in the top 5? Things that make you go, Oregon at 6, Ole Miss at 7. Let me bring this a little closer. So I'm being accurate. Ole Miss at 7, Georgia Tech at 8, Vandy at 9. Wow, that is so, I can never get used to that. Georgia Tech and Vandy at 8 and 9. How the difference a college football year makes. The U at 10. They were in the top 5 before. Now they're at 10. BYU at 11. Notre Dame at 12. Texas Tech 13. Tennessee 14. Virginia 15. Louisville 16. Cincinnati 17. Oklahoma 18. Wow. They fell out of the top 5 for sure. Mizzou 19. 20 is Texas. They fell off the face of the earth, floating in space. Michigan at 21. Houston at 22. SC at 23. Uh, Utah Utes at 24. And Memphis at 25. So that's how it would round up. So my thing for you is you guys tap in. We're everywhere. We are on 5 Facebook channels: YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Kick, D Live, Trovo Nation. We're everywhere you want to be. We are the BHB, the Big House Breakdown. You tell us what you think. Did your college football team wind up in the proper position? Does this top 25 make any sense to anyone? Some people have some beef with it because they say Ohio State didn't really play anybody deserved to be number one. They're just getting that status because they're the defending national champs and they haven't lost a game. Whereas you'd have a team like Georgia and Alabama that played a lot of folks so far. They did a lot of good things in there and they really deserve that 4 and 5 spot. Is Georgia Tech and Vandy built, really built to get through the gauntlet that is college football? And is the third row, as in Texas Tech, Tennessee, and Virginia, really better than some folks in the fifth row, Michigan, SC, and Utah? I don't know. Flip a coin, flip the row. But that's what this is all about. That's what we need you to do. Tap in Let us know what you think about this top 25. Good, bad, indifferent. You tell us. We'll argue the point. That's the point of the show. We want to get to you. Um, so next we're gonna go to the outstanding players of the last week, as it were. I'm just gonna pull it up. Give me 1 second, family. You guys can check out the top 25 while I pull this up. All right. Here we go. All right. So we got outstanding performers, week 9, college football. So we got Justice Haynes, Michigan, uh, rushed for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns in a win against Michigan State. Mark Fletcher, running back out of Miami, scored 3 touchdowns and rushed for 106 yards in their win over Stanford. Isaac Brown, Louisville, had 205 yards rushing, 62-yard touchdown over BC. Keywan Lacey, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is doing it. 2 rushing touchdowns, 78 yards versus Oklahoma. Joey Aguiar, 396 yards and 3 touchdowns against Kentucky. Brendan Lewis, Memphis, 307 in a 17-point comeback versus South Florida. Fernando Mendoza, still spinning, of Indiana, 186 yards and 3 touchdowns on 15 to 22 passing, along with a rushing touchdown in its win versus the Bruins. KC Concepcion, wide receiver, Texas A&M, 79-yard punt return and a TD reception over in the win over LSU. This is what I think got Brian Kelly fired. We will dive in more. Jordan Davison of Oregon, 102 yards and 2 touchdowns versus the Badgers. Denzel Boston, Washington, impressive day in receiving victory versus Illinois. Kanai Walker, Arkansas, Defensive Player of the Week honors from Pro Football Focus. So that probably means he graded out in the high 90s. Deontay Lawson, Bama, uh, forced a fumble in the fourth quarter to help Alabama win over South Kakalaki. Faletu Sanatola, DB of BYU. Never heard of this cat before, but we're going to read it anyway. Interception for 40-yard touchdown and helped them to win over Iowa State. CJ Hurd, Vandy forced a fumble late in the fourth quarter to set up a game win against Mizzou. And Mizzou is still in the top 25. Word. That's interesting. Michael Hellman, Central Michigan, pass rusher of the week by PFF. Trey Zoon III anchored the offensive line to help Texas A&M in a dominant rushing game, 49 points versus LSU. Could that be another reason why Brian Kelly got the can? Probably. Keelan Rutledge, guard, Georgia Tech, 243 offensive yards against Syracuse. Isaac Brown, Louisville, 205 yards, 62-yard touchdown versus BC. And those are your outstanding players for week 9 in college football. Okay, so now we're going to dip into, since we have our outstanding players, now we're going to talk about our Heisman hopefuls. Heisman hopefuls. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. I'm looking for it. Give me 1 second, family, to pull it up, and we're gonna get to it. Again, if you want to get involved with the show, please do. We are on many channels. Just keyword in the bonus. Sorry, that's my basketball show. Keyword the Big House Breakdown on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, and you can or Twitch, and you can come on up and we can rock out to what we're doing right now, which is reviewing the college football week 9 Heisman previews. Okay, so after a stellar week 9 performance, who is up for the Heisman? Okay, so let's get into that. So this is not me, this is clutch points, right? So the reason why I put up clutch points is because I want to make it a point of conversation, a point of debate, right? So we're going to go down, we're going to review clutch point and who they believe has the Heisman odds to make it to the Heisman and win it, the most coveted award in college football. Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana. He's been in the thick of it all year, really leading what some people call the best team in the country. So Fernando Mendoza's been doing it, both with his wheels and with his arm. Okay. Number 2, we got Marcel Reed, quarterback, Texas A&M. Um, Reed has passed for 1,900 yards and 17 touchdowns while rushing for 6. Young man is doing it. I really enjoyed the game with Texas A&M versus Notre Dame. When they spanked Notre Dame, that kind of put Texas A&M on the map, thanks to him and those scrappy DBs. All right, Ty Simpson, Bama. Yeah, he's been spending too, man. He's been healthy for that program. They haven't had a really good signal caller and someone that could really spin that ball for a while now. And he is doing it big for them. Helped them in that big win versus Georgia. Diego Pavea, quarterback, Vanderbilt. He's responsible for the Vanderbilt resurgence this year that got them in the top 25, looking good. Um, Julian Sayin, quarterback, Ohio State, you know, 80% passing for 800 yards, 19 touchdown passes. He's doing this thing. I'm not going to get on him. I'll save that for Rivals Week. Hayes King, quarterback of Georgia Tech. Um, Georgia Tech is a surpriser this year as well. You know what I mean? 1,400 yards, 12 scores this year, 7 touchdowns, ran for 12 touchdowns. You know, he's got a quiet Heisman campaign. Gunnar Stockton, he's been here all year. 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 7 on the ground. So those are your Heisman hopefuls. Gunnar Stockton, Georgia. I'll run it down real quick. Haynes King, Georgia Tech. Julian Sayin, Ohio State. Diego Pavea, Vanderbilt. Ty Simpson, Bama. Marcel Reed, Texas A&M. And then leading the pack is Fernando Mendoza of Indiana University. And those are your clutch point. According to Clutch Point, those are your Heisman hopefuls. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that I personally like Marcel Reed? I think he's kind of tops of that list if you ask me. But when Indiana starts playing, everybody likes Mendoza of Indiana, but when Indiana starts, getting ready for the, you know, um, Big Ten championship game, and when they get in the thick of the winter season for Big Ten play, it might get a little dicey for them. Who knows? When they got to play the Michigans and Ohio States, they beat Oregon already. You know, fair deal. But when they got to play the crown jewels of the conference, we will see how they stack up. All right. Now, also, so hit us up in the comments and let us know who you believe and who are your tops in the coveted Heisman Award race for college football. We know that it's mostly a quarterback's prize, quarterback's award. Every once in a while, they will include a running back or a wide receiver or even a defensive back if they are outstanding. Usually doesn't happen, but we shall see. Okay. Next up, let's get into projecting if the college football playoff were after week 9. If the college football playoff were after week 9, what would it look like? Who'd be in? You know what I mean? Who would make the field, right? What teams? Would your team? First, you'd have Ohio State. These are the first round buys, right? Ohio State. Wait a minute. Let me see if we are. Nope, that's not the right one. Okay, but Ohio State would be one. I'm trying to go back to the particular one that I saw before I started the show. Let's see if it pops right up. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Give me 1 second, fam. I'm trying to pull this joint up that I had up from earlier, and I'm not quite finding it. Give me a sec. Let me pull this joker up. This is projecting. Okay. All right, I got it. So, nope, that's not it. Okay, I have to put it back in one more again. Okay, here I got it. Cool. All right, family, pardon the delay. Projecting the college football top 12 after week 9. So, again, we have the way it lays out, the 1 through 4 is gonna get a bye, and then everybody else will be head to head. So your top of your, divisions who might get a bye, 1 through 4 will be Ohio State. They predicting them to be the Big Ten champ. Indiana, they predicting them to be runner up, um, and make it based on record. Number 3 will be Bama. They predicting them to be the SEC champ, and number 4 will be Texas A&M. Okay, and as we round off the first round games, Memphis will play Georgia. Who do you like there? I don't think we have an issue with who will probably win that game. Give me Georgia running away. Georgia Tech at Ole Miss. I think Chambliss is going to be a little too much for Georgia Tech. Give me Ole Miss in that scenario. BYU versus Miami. Give me Miami. Vandy, Oregon. I like underdog's chance here, but give me Oregon running away. And that's the field quarterfinal games. This is what they're saying. The winner of Memphis, Georgia plays Texas A&M. The winner of Georgia Tech, Ole Miss plays Bama. The winner of BYU, Miami plays Indiana. And the winner of Vandy, Oregon goes on to play Ohio State. Now, the question remains for my peoples at home that are watching and that are really concerned and really into who's going to get into college football playoffs this particular season. What teams out of the top 25 or better will crack that top 12? Do you see any risers out of those last two rows from what is that, 16 through 24? They're saying 16 to 25, they're saying Memphis is going to come through and get busy on it. I don't know, man. I kind of like my Michigan Wolverines. I like their schedule. I like the way that lines up. Iron sharpens iron until we get to Ohio State, and then it's a zero-sum game. Does Louisville sneak in there? Does Oklahoma sneak in there? Can SC do anything to prolong their season? There's some blue bloods and there's some names in that top 25 that could, before it's all over, have a lot to say and do with the way that the college football season shakes out. And then the toughest games of this schedule for this week, the the names that are gonna the games and the names that are gonna shake up the college football top matchups. You got Vandy versus Texas. You got the U versus MSU. You got Navy versus who is that? North Texas. You got Oklahoma versus Tennessee, and then you have Cincinnati versus the Utes of Utah. We got to see, man. I mean, I don't like any of those matchups personally. Miami can't afford to lose anymore. They're gonna drop like a rock. I think Tennessee can make a statement if they beat Oklahoma. Uh, Vandy beating Texas would really make a statement. That might bump them up right into the top five the way they've been moving. So, that's the way I see. I don't really think the Cincinnati Utah game is that consequential, but we'll see. We will see. Y'all let us know. Do y'all think any of these top 25 toughest games of this week will be of any consequence in the AP poll or not? Will it shake up that thing or will it just be a nothing burger? You let us know. You get in here. You tell us what you think about this college football slate of games. Okay, so of course, now's the time, like any other, to talk about the matchup of the week, which is the um the game that we're going to focus on because I am a Michigan football fan. We're going to focus on the Michigan Wolverines versus the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue Boilermakers. So they haven't won a game. Talking about Purdue, they haven't won a game in the Big Ten this year. But they, like any other team, are a team full of scholarship players that you can't sleep on. Any given Saturday, just like any given Sunday, a team can roll up on you and decide to give you a game. And if you play down to your competition, they'll beat the brakes off you. So let's go through it. Edge matchups Purdue versus, I'm going to try to go fast. At the quarterback position, you got Ryan Brown and Malachi Singleton. They share time, both dual threat quarterbacks. You know the old saying, if you got two quarterbacks, you don't have one quarterback because it's so hard to produce synergy in your offensive unit. So why would you mess with continuity? Uh, Ryan Brown usually is the one that gets most of the reps throughout the course of the game. Ryan Brown is an athlete at the position more than he is a quarterback. I don't really care for his long ball. I think, he's capable of a lot of turnovers when he throws the long ball. His intermediate game is cool. He mostly relies on dinking and dunking to the tight ends and the boundary passes. So, and then of course you have Bryce Underwood, the five-star phenom, the highest paid NIL number one recruit in the nation, still doing his thing. I like Bryce Underwood in this matchup. I think the defenses that are going to play both of these quarterbacks, both Brown and Underwood, the matchup favors Underwood. I think, of course, when you get to a particular weak link in the Purdue secondary that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, the matchups favor Bryce Underwood and what he delivers. I just like his efficiency. I like his clock. I like his 2.7 second ability to get the ball out and make it happen. Give me Bryce Underwood in that QB matchup. Now, running back matchup. Justice Haynes is hurt. Looks like he has a lower body injury. No, they're not really disclosing what the injury actually is, but he's been in a soft cast and hasn't been practicing all week. That leaves the Jordan Marshall, the train, with his ability to grind out yards and then explode for at least a 60-yarder in every game for the last couple of games. That leaves him. And then, of course, for Purdue, you got Kevin McAbee. He is left over from when we played uh, Purdue in the championship game, and he was a force then. We subdued him as a unit, but of course, he had himself a game against our Wolverines. So he's around and he's always a gamer. To be fair, I like what Michigan does with their offensive line a lot better than what Purdue does with their offensive line. They're very one-dimensional with what they intend to do with the run game. I think Michigan will the defense will sniff that out pretty easily, and Maccabee won't have the day that he thinks he's gonna have. Maccabee can catch the ball out of the backfield as well, so he's pretty good at that. But so can Jordan Marshall. Um, I just think Michigan is a lot more purposed and a lot more, designed to ground and pound. Give me Jordan Marshall in the matchup at running back. So now we're talking about wide receiver. So for the Purdue Boilermakers, we got Nitro Tuggle, we got EJ Horton, and we got Michael Jackson the third. I like this unit. I just don't know how effective they are. And I think it has a lot to do with the offensive line and the quarterback position, not so much the wide receivers themselves. Michigan's wide receivers are Donovan McCulley and Andrew Marsh, and followed up by some combination of Channing Goodwin and Samaj Morgan. And I'm hoping this week that we get Zach Marshall and Klein back involved with the catch receiving game. So I'm gonna call it even. I'm gonna call, and it's probably by attrition. Neither receiving unit really is gonna stand out in this one. If I had to pick one, I'll pick Michigan because if Bryce Underwood could get that ball to Andrew Marsh and McCulley, I think they can do a lot more after the catch than Purdue's unit. But that's on a game by game basis. They're not going to just line up and you can expect them to go for 150 yards every game, each one of them. So you can't depend. I'm going to call it even. Although I think talent wise, Michigan's unit is better. Nitro Tuggle probably should have come to the Michigan Wolverines when we were recruiting him. He would have helped us out a lot at this point. Tight end. I'm gonna give the matchup. The tight end. Purdue doesn't really use their tight ends very much, which is probably a reason why they're really not doing well as a unit, as an offensive unit. But Michigan uses their tight ends in some really unique ways: fullback, H back, wide receiver, uh, intermediate, cover two buster. Give me Michigan's tight end room, providing they get Zach Marshall and Hoffman, Bredesen, and Marlon Klein involved in the action this week. And in O line, I like the way Michigan's O line is playing when they run the ball. When they pass the ball, they're fair. Although I did hear that there was a injury to one of our starters this week. That can put us in some really wonky, precarious places and spaces. We shall see. Give me Michigan's O line. There's way too much going on with Purdue's O line that I really don't like. Give me Michigan's O line in that one. So I'll rewind it. I'm going Michigan at quarterback, Michigan at running back. I'm going even at wide receivers for both teams. I am going uh, tight end, give me Michigan's room. And for O line, give me Michigan's O line, provided they grind the ball, provided that they run control with the football, which I think they will do to get up out of there and get to their bye week so they can get healthy and so on and so forth. Okay, do we have a comment? Let's see what's shaking. Okay, I appreciate the advertisement, but I'd rather you contribute to the show. At least give me a like. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me a follow. I'd appreciate that. So now D line. Now, for D line, Purdue has got some people. I'm not gonna hold you. They got Nunnally, CJ Nunnally, and they got Trey Smith. Those two get after it at the defensive end position. But I don't care for their in the inside of that D line. Lacks a lot to be desired. I think they're gonna get worn out over the course of 60. And give me, and then Michigan, of course, has a 10 deep rotation at defensive tackle. We have a 8 deep rotation at defensive end. And we have our standouts. Nobody can block Derek Moore. And when uh Jay Barham has his head on right, he can be LT-ish. Give me Michigan's defensive line over Purdue's defensive line. Linebacker. Now, normally I would go Michigan at linebacker, but there's a lot of hurt. Jimmy Roller and Cole Sullivan have, you know, injuries that are going to prevent them from playing. Troy Bowles has to step up. And then, of course, he'll be alongside Ernest, the Hammer Hausman, as I like to call him. I think that will be enough to get us in and out of this particular game. I like Bowles' game. Bowles has a nice, rangy game that features some quickness and speed and some, dissecting plays really, really well. He dissects play. You might even see a Wu Tang sighting. That's right, Bo-Tang. We might see a Bo-Tang sighting at linebacker in the game this week. Can I count on it? Not really sure. I'm gonna call this even because I do like Purdue's linebackers in Powell and Korea. I like those two guys. They're very active. So if there's some plays to be made on this defense, the defensive ends and the two inside linebackers are probably gonna be the ones making the plays. I'm gonna call that unit even for now, even though I like Ernest the Hammer Hausman. He can't play every linebacker position, but we shall see. I'm gonna call that unit even. And for DBs, I don't like Purdue's DBs at all. They're featured by Grimes and they're featured by Hines and Smiley Bradford. I don't know. There lacks a lot to be desired. Grimes can't seem to stay on the field, and the rest of their secondary always seems to be out of position. Give me Michigan's secondary, who keeps getting better every week. I love what Zeke Berry is doing right now at the corner position, at the boundary corner position. I really like what TJ Metcalf is doing at the nickel. And, you know, Jair Hill is solid. If he could, learn how to catch a little bit, we might be able to blow some teams out. If he, you know, caught at least one of those gimmies last week at in interceptions, we probably would have went up by another 2 scores within the frame of the game. So come on, Jair, get us a pick six this week, all right? So those are your matchups: quarterback, running back, tight end, O line. On offense, D line, and secondary. I love Michigan in this game. They win the matchup edge. Now let's go to eye in the sky. Why is eye in the sky important? Eye in the sky is important because it gives us, and that is the wrong one. Pardon me, family. Let me load up the correct visual for us, and I'll get right to it. Let's see. Which one is it? Okay, that's it right there. Okay, that was the wrong visual, but we're gonna get to the right one. And here we go. Okay, so eye in the sky. I created this segment because we want to talk about especially in week 10, what these teams look like beyond the X's and the O's and the Jimmies and the Joes. We want to look at what these teams' character, integrity, and momentum is. And what's crazy is I just was reading something today about Purdue, and they said Purdue is like a dumpster fire of a Division 1 football team. And I said, wow, that's what the media out of Indiana thinks of the Purdue program. They don't think very highly of it, and they really don't like their head coach. So that Purdue's head coach may be another one on the chopping blocks, along with the Florida coach, along with Brian Kelly out of LSU, Purdue's coach, and it was supposed to be my man out of Wisconsin, Fickle. So it's going to be a lot of people on the hot seat, including the Purdue head coach, if they don't put up a really good stink and a fight against Michigan. He is probably the next one on the chopping block. So we'll see if this team has the character to persevere after not winning one Big Ten game this year. Now, to be fair, they did put up a fight against Rutgers, and Rutgers they threw some deep shots in the fourth quarter, and kind of came back and blew the doors off of Purdue in the fourth quarter. But for 3 quarters, it was a volley. It was a game. They were back and forth with it. They were doing their thing. So integrity of the game. So do they have the heart? Do they have the wherewithal to weather the storm? Are they going to stay true to what their goals started out to be in the beginning of the season? I don't know if they have the personnel for that, and I don't know if they have the head coach for that. So my guess would be no. If they haven't won a Big Ten game thus far in the year, I don't expect them to this week or for the rest of the year. And that would definitely be a recipe for that coach being fired if they can't muster up at least one win in the season. Now, momentum. Their momentum is in the toilet. They don't really have any momentum, Purdue. So there that is. We don't want to, Michigan doesn't want to get them started on the momentum train. No mo for them. No soup for you. Okay, so Michigan, though, a lot of character, a lot of poise. That was a real, I don't know if you want to call Michigan State a scary game, but it's a game where a lot of distractions can have you misreading and falling into the mediocrity of poor play, falling into the mediocrity of, poor assignments, and falling into the mediocrity of not living up to what you're supposed to be as a team. And for sure, we gave Michigan State that opportunity with a late garbage touchdown and letting them have some chunk yardage plays that really shouldn't have happened in the second half, provided, you know, there wasn't a time in the game where I thought Michigan State was going to win that game, but we did give them every opportunity to mount a game. You know what I'm saying? To produce what shouldn't have been produced within the frame of the game. So for the eye in the sky matchup, and we got and for momentum, we're riding a what is that? A 3 game winning streak now. So we want to keep that going to our bye week with a 4 game winning streak, and look to the last quarter of the year with a lot of juice and momentum so that we could take on them zero state bums, send them packing, win the Big Ten, and walk right into the college football playoff as it was. All right, so, and as it's going to be. So, we want to talk about the game inside the game. All right, give me a family. Give me a minute, family. Let me put this up so that we can let me put up the illustration for the game inside the game. And that's important because that's the time where we talk about no crap analysis. We talk about getting after this. We're not going to be swayed and dismayed by the talking bobbleheads that like to predict stuff and when they don't really know that hardcore football information that you need, which is why we get into the game inside the game. All right, here we go. Insights, no crap analysis, and predictions. Game inside the game. Let's get to it. Okay. So when Michigan is on offense, um, boundary passes will be open all day, according to the All 22 versus Purdue's defense versus Purdue defense. Physical wide receiver play uh, opens up in the passing game. So this may be a game for our two more physical wide receivers in Marsh and McCulley. They may be able to get a lot after the catch because of the physical nature of the game and what they and the talents that they bring as physical wide receivers. Staying in the fight, climbing in the pocket opens up some downfield passing. Yes, because Connolly and what's the other linebacker for the this Connolly and Trey Smith. Those two get up field so fast that you're probably they're probably going to create automatic running lanes and automatic lanes for the quarterback to move up in the pocket and deliver a sure ball downfield. Now, Rutgers showed us that if Bryce Underwood can stay in the pocket and deliver a crisp ball like we know he can, all he has to do is, make his way up in the pocket, stay tough, and find his receivers downfield. And there's a lot to be gained and a lot to be had in a game like that because their secondary just doesn't hold up. They're not where they're supposed to be. Either they're taking too many chances or they just don't have enough talent back there. Number 8 for Rutgers was eating. He ate proverbially versus, um, you know, versus Purdue last week. They like to bring, they like to flood 6 and bring 5 in a lot of situations, which is going to open up the intermediate passing game, but they can't afford for that, whoever the quarterback is that Purdue is playing while they're on defense, to just sit back and like pick them apart. So that will open up a big day for our tight ends, I'm predicting. Purdue is weak at the defensive tackle positions, both at the nose and the two technique. Rutgers ate them up running in the two gaps and the three gaps. They lived there. That number 20 for Rutgers lived in the 2 and 3 gap last week, running the ball. A lot of breakout runs. If Jordan Marshall gets that, predict a 200-yard game and maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns from him. If he gets those sorts of running lanes, book it. Put your money down on it. Michigan's duo, zone, and bluff running scheme will create an advantage versus the 40 scheme of Purdue. Um, they don't really do well versus RPO, which is where Bryce Underwood excels. So you can also get some looks from McCulley and Marsh that way. And they over aggressive safeties. Uh, you can RPO them to death. I just said that. And then number 4 at corner is a weak link. He's a weak link. You can target him. McCulley or Marsh can have a field day on that number 4 Hines for um, Purdue defense. And come back on the next show on Monday at 12 p.m. The I Told You So game recap. And let's see if these two defensive tackles are the, weak links. And we'll see if number 4 is a weak link that the Michigan offense can expose. You know what I'm saying? And when Michigan is on D, Purdue likes to run like off tackle a lot. You know what I mean? They love to get outside. I think that that's because they really can't block very well inside. So they like to do everything that can get them on the edge. Zone schemes, seal blocks, power game, anything to get them on the edges. You know what I'm saying? They'll do some end around, they'll do some jet sweep, anything to get them on the edges So it's critical that Michigan's defense hold the line, set the edge, and play contain inside out, force fill. This should be a big game for the hit stick, Brandon Hillman. He should be able to come down and put the boom on. We have to watch out for screens and some misdirection plays. You know, every Indiana team is good for the misdirection and the quick twitch, quick eye play with the motion. You know, they love doing that. Um, Michigan can, if the D line can get their paws up, we can bat some balls coming from the quarterback Ryan. They like to, believe it or not, I saw some power runs up the middle with Maccabee and Ryan. So they don't like to do that, but they will every once in a while. They will even go for the edges and do some power on the goal line. Now, if our linebackers don't shoot those gaps and get some backline stops like Ray Lewis and get yourself going to the NFL, you wasted an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Um, the QB Ryan, he likes to run versus man looks. So when Rutgers was giving uh, Purdue a lot of man concept in their defense, and those DBs were way downfield with those receivers, Ryan took off and got some first downs that way. He didn't do anything super duper with his legs, but he can when he wants to. We can bat some balls. Said that. Um, they like to play action game to a degree, and some off tackle runs. Said all of that. The blue chip in a nutshell, the blue chip ratio of Purdue to Michigan is Purdue has like 5% of a blue chip ratio in total as a team, whereas Michigan has a 55% blue chip ratio. We should win this game running away with it. If we don't, I'll be very disappointed. Uh Man, we have a lot of injuries though. That's the only problem. We're very deep though as a team. We're a young team, but we're very deep with quality players at every position as a team. So Troy Bowles and Owusu Boateng and maybe even Nathan Afobe on the O line, or you guys are gonna have to step up. Now Nathan Afobe would be a great person to put in for who's hurt on the O line because he has a lot of experience in a grind them out type of a matchup. And I would love to see Troy Bowles and Boateng and see their talents on display. I think those two guys have noses for the football, and I'd like to see them put a little pop in the linebacking unit. Yeah, so and we wish Rolder and Cole Sullivan speedy recoveries. So I'm gonna go Michigan. I'm gonna go Michigan 35. I'm gonna go Purdue 3. I didn't really see anything on the all 22. I looked at 3 games of theirs on the all 22, and I didn't really see anything that's gonna like make me like think that they got a shot at this. The only reason I think Purdue may have a shot is if we don't play disciplined football. If we're trying to play talent first and not team first football, then Purdue has a shot. Not to win, but to put points on the board. I'm going to go Michigan 35, Purdue 3. I think Bryce Underwood is going to have a big game against that number 4 kid with McCulley and Marsh. I think we might see about 3 touchdowns in that regard. Maybe a touchdown to a tight end. Maybe Bryce might run for a touchdown, and maybe Marshall will run for 2. They're going to put up some points this week. Um, yeah, 35-3, Michigan over Purdue. Now let's get into a little bit of recruiting, right? Because we're in that time period where it's flip season. That's right, it's flip season this time of year. Flip season is when all your football recruits, 5 stars and 4 stars, have committed to their teams, and then all of a sudden have a change of heart based on some things happening in the world of college football. They have a come to Jesus realization that the team that they committed to may not necessarily be the team that they should go to. So, of course, Michigan has our crown jewels of this recruiting season: Xavier Hyder at running back, Carter Meadows at defensive end, and Moose Ludwig at tight end, all 5 stars. Donald Tabron, quarterback of 2027, is set to go. He took a visit to Michigan, Detroit local talent. We have to grab him. Munshawn Sales, wide receiver, super talent out of Indiana, quoted the number one receiver. He's looking forward to playing with Bryce Underwood. They have a big, dope relationship. 6'5", 200-pound, super speedy, freaky receiver. We need to get him in. Matthew Gregory out of Jersey, another one, another speedster at 6 feet, 170 pounds. Quentin Burrell, 6'2", 195, physical catcher like a Donovan McCulley. Now let's get to flips. DQ Fort, but we need him at linebacker out of IMG Academy. Get him in here. He's really dope at linebacker. Uh, Wisconsin commit Aiden Reedy. We need him at linebacker. Get him in here. Xavion Finney is probably he's getting a crystal ball to flip to Michigan out of LSU. Now that Brian Kelly has been canned. CJ Brunner out of Florida. That's another one that's on Michigan Lamar Morgan's radar to be flipped. Another DB, Jay Timmons out of FSU. Another DB set to be flipped. Jamarion Vincent out of Baylor. That's another one we got to look to. And now that Michigan is gonna at least get one more lineman during this recruiting cycle. They like Sean Stover out of Duke. They also like Tommy Froman, who committed to Duke. Sorry, Sean Stover committed to Duke. He's not out of Duke. He's out of the Dallas Fort Worthy proper. He's a talent out of that area. We got Tommy Froman from Loyola Academy, a 6'8" kid, loves the maize and blue. We need to get him in. Adrian Hamilton, um, and uh, and then we got a lot of people poaching Julius Walker, who's our commit at defensive end out of South Carolina. We need to keep him in the fold. Told you guys about Jamarion Vincent. We're still working on Nick Abrams, although I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Davon Benjamin out of Oregon, that may or may not happen. He would be great to get. Love his skill set. And then Khalil Taylor, wide receiver, committed to Penn State. He's going to be in Michigan for the Ohio State game. We need to get all the receiver help that we can get, and that's going to do it for us this week on the Big House Breakdown. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Make sure you comment and turn on your notifications so that every time we have a Big House Breakdown, you too can get in here with us and rock out and be on the bright side, just like we are on the Big House Breakdown. And as usual, I'm going to say peace and go blue. Let's get that win. All right, y'all. We out.